the stage, please. And I want to welcome you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come by and hopefully leave with information and education about what I perceive as a big problem here, not only in the Metro East, but also in Monroe County. We've got a panel of professionals this evening that can speak to not only heroin, but also prescription drugs and the problems that surround the illicit use of drugs. And I'd like to introduce them tonight. We're going to go into a video, and then each one of the professionals will speak. If you've got questions, if you would write them down and hold them, because we'll have a question and answer period as soon as we're all done with the presentation, and you can ask your hearts away. With us this evening is Scott McDaniel, 20-year EMS, 17 years paramedic, runs Monroe County. He's our first line defense, usually picking up a lot of these cases of overdoses. So he's going to speak to you tonight from the trenches as he has seen it in his profession. Next is Chief Deputy Bob Hill out of Monroe County Coroner's Office. We have Chief Jim Trantham, Waterloo PD. Chief will speak to the statistics of what he's seen in his office crossing his desk. And a lot of the crime that we see in Monroe County is also related to the funding of illicit drugs, keeping the habits going. With us for the first time is Jay Pickett, Dr. Jay Pickett. When I say by first time, it's the first time we have a physician on a panel to talk about what the physician is seeing in his office, day-to-day routine, and what's coming off as far as prescription shopping. We're talking hydrocodone, oxycodone, a big problem because that's a lot of times how all of these drug addictions start, going on to further use, which is heroin, cocaine. Thank you, Doctor. Courtney. Courtney is our young lady that was Waterloo Junior High and Waterloo High School. She is a recovering addict. She's going to talk to you from her personal experience and what she's gone through. And I'm sorry, Crystal, who is part of the Stop Heroin Movement. Crystal recently lost her husband in heroin overdose in Belleville, Illinois. So she's going to talk to you from the spouse aspect. And then we have Chris Duran and her husband Billy, who did not come up on stage. Chris is a mother that has lost her son a year ago, November. And Chris bravely has been speaking along with the Stop Heroin group because this is near and dear to her family and heart. So these are all people that have been in the trenches, have seen this in some shape, way, or form. And this is all pertaining to what we're seeing here in Monroe County. So again, if you have any questions, write them down and we'll get to you as soon as the presentation is over. I'm going to start the video now.
Threats to our children have always existed, only the forms seem to change. That's the issue with heroin. Heroin has been available for centuries, but is now finding its way into the hands of our children in cheap and easy-to-use forms. Heroin can be found as a white or a brown powder, or the black, sticky, tar-like substance known as black tar heroin. It is the most addictive of the opiate family of drugs. And an overdose from heroin is extremely likely because of the purity level of the drug now being sold in the United States. Your children and our children are literally being targeted by a drug cartel that understands and is rapidly discovering that cocaine is being replaced by heroin as the drug of choice. Your choice is to be aware and to understand that preventing your child from starting this drug in the first place is the best way to avoid the misery being experienced by an increasing number of families in our region. We start with the story of one such family.
Before he started using, he was always family-oriented, always just idolized his family. And then towards the end, it was more of just about him. He didn't want to put anyone above. He he always put himself above anyone else.
The family of Jesse Alnow say he began using marijuana at age 16, moved into prescription drugs, and on to heroin.
He stopped having as much to do with family. He would always, when he was around us, he would lie all the time. He lied so much that he couldn't keep his lies straight, so he wouldn't remember them the next time he was talking to us. He'd let it slip, so we had known that he was lying to us all the time.
Tried to play the tough love game with him and let him go on, thinking that maybe, if he loved us as much as we loved him, he would give it up or go try to get some help for his family's sake. But I think once you do that drug, it takes control of you. And I don't believe you ever would come back from it.
And I believed him. I believed every word he said.
The tough love drove Jesse into the home of his grandparents.
I didn't know he was on heroin. And I went in there one day and I found a needle, a syringe. And I got so angry at him that I took the syringe and I was breaking it up. I just didn't throw it away. I was breaking it up so he couldn't use it again. And I pricked my finger. So then I had to go get a hepatitis test to make sure that I hadn't got hepatitis from it. 68-year-old woman going to the hospital to get hepatitis.
That would be the first of many trips to the hospital, as Jesse would overdose 4 times, only to be released to seek out his next fix.
It makes you feel helpless because there's nothing you can do to help him. Seeing him curled up in the kids, he'd be curled up in the fetal position. And just helpless. And then you sit there and wait for him to start coming to again, and knowing he's not going to change anything.
Jesse would eventually steal from his grandparents and at one point threatened them.
I have to hide my purse underneath my pillow because he would come in there and take money out of my purse. So I stopped getting money, keeping money so that he couldn't take it. They told me, kick him out. Don't give him any money. Don't give him anything to eat. And I couldn't do it. I guess I should have. But he didn't have anywhere to go. And Jesse knew I loved him. I've always stuck by him. But what I did was I helped him kill himself. That's exactly what I did.
His grandmother discovered Jesse's body after a fatal overdose June 13, 2011. He was 29 years old.
It was hard because you feel guilty, and then you go to revenge, and then sometimes I hated him because of what he was doing or what he did.
I didn't believe it at first. I was in denial. And I just couldn't believe it. And then when you finally do believe it, you start getting mad because they don't care about what you feel or what you think because they keep doing it.
It's remarkable that when we talk with these families, they just kind of shake their head and say, we just knew it was a matter of time. We did everything we could, rehab, counseling, family support, and there was nothing that we could do that would help him. And that is the true frightening aspect of heroin. It's that addictive that even when you have all that support behind you, family, friends, money that they're spending to help you get off this drug, you can't.
So what is the attraction?
We had this concept of heroin as a dirty, junky drug that people in back alleys were using. And believe me, that's what it turns into. But with the increased purities that we're seeing and the increased availability and the low cost of heroin, unfortunately that leads to greater availability, greater accessibility to young people, and they don't have that immediate repulsion to it. The ability to use it in ways that were not available in the past, by snorting, by smoking, those allow it to be introduced to more people. And unfortunately, they're getting caught up at very young ages.
The high you get lasts 8 to 10 hours, and you can buy that high for as little as $10 a button. So that's about the cost of going to a movie today.
A button is a capsule containing as little as 1/10 of a gram of heroin.
Unless you're a chemist with access to a In the 1970s and 1980s, the purity level of heroin was found to be typically 18 to 22%. And last year alone, in the St. Louis metropolitan region, the DEA is finding heroin, street-level heroin, typically in the 35 to 45% range. We have discovered heroin being sold on the street even at the 90% purity level, which is lethal in a small amount.
Investigators are also finding heroin cut with everything from simple flour to drugs like Vicodin or fentanyl.
What the drug does is works on the central nervous system as a depressant, it slows your system down, and eventually you just stop breathing.
Or they call it the nod. It's one of the signs or symptoms that somebody is using heroin. When you see them on the nod is the slang term, and that's where they enter into a dream-like trance, what they call euphoric trance, and they nod off, and sometimes they don't wake up.
So you can be very lethargic, non-caring, no ambition, very slow in your speech, and just no outward cares about what's going on with you, your life, your family.
Watch for signs and symptoms like pinpoint pupils, apathy. If your child starts not taking care of their hygiene, if they're sleeping all the time, more than an ordinary teenager would sleep, then get more deeply involved in your child's life and find out what's going on.
We've had 2 cases where it was a first-time user that died. They just didn't overdose and they got into the hospital. They died the first time they used it. That has to be the warning that's out here for people. This is a dangerous, dangerous drug that you're dealing with.
Be aware that heroin is in your high schools and could be in your middle schools. We are finding it in almost every school. And if you don't believe it's in your high school or middle school, you're in denial and you need to wake up. If you don't believe that your high school kid doesn't have access to heroin or other controlled substances, you're wrong. They do.
That was a DVD that was made by Steve Williamson, U.S. Attorney, as well as Madison County Coroner Steve Nunn, in which they've seen epidemic proportions of numbers coming in from overdoses. Not only heroin, but also illicit prescription drugs. Some of the things they touched on in the video, such as what to look for, as far as maybe what a drug would look like, as well as signs and symptoms, red flags for the family members. We'll hear more about as we go through each individual speaking this evening. And I'm sorry, my name is Vicki Koerber. I am the Monroe County Coroner. I didn't introduce myself earlier. The reason my office got involved over a year ago was I had a call from Erica Sunday from the Independent, who had gotten a hold of April Klepper. And there's April, who was the Stop Heroin movement out of St. Louis. And she ran the numbers and saw the numbers coming into the Metro East area. And it just so happened it clicked because at that time I was seeing an alarming increase in overdoses for our small community. I ran the numbers, and from 2011 and 2012, if you break those years out into quarters of 8, we're seeing 1 overdose death a quarter. And to me, in Monroe County, a populace of 33,000, where everybody grew up knowing everybody, that's highly alarming. So with April's help from Stop Heroin, and again, Erica making the connections, we have been into Columbia High School to talk to the faculty. I have talked to Waterloo Junior High and Waterloo High School faculty. We are now doing our open forum with participation from the community. And I've been in touch with Valmeyer. We'll get into Valmeyer School and junior high and hope to do open forums both in Columbia as well as Valmeyer. So at this point now, I'm going to introduce again Scott McDaniel. Scott is a seasoned veteran in the EMS industry, lead paramedic from Monroe County. If you would, Scott.
Here. Like she said, I'm Scott McDaniel. I've been here in Monroe County for going on 14 years. I'm the lead supervisor. I basically run the medical part of the whole program at Monroe County Ambulance. We are the first line of defense. Well, let's change that a little bit. I believe we're going to be the second line because the parents should be the first line. Sometimes you don't know this. A lot of the overdoses that we see, parents had no idea. I just put some numbers together for 2012. And what these are, I read through about 120 reports today. Come down and where our crews have documented, what was going on with this patient. We had roughly about 16 overdoses that you can contribute to some kind of substance abuse in 2012. 3 of these resulted in deaths. 2 of these were dead on scene. There's nothing we could have done. 1 was clinically dead. The crews, they did CPR on him, gave him an anti-narcotic medicine called Narcan, and revived him. He later died. Some of these, what I would put in different categories: recreational drug use. We had 4 heroin overdoses, 2 from Oxycontin. The heroin was just explained. I really don't want to go into too much more than what it was. Oxycontin, which is a pain medication. It's a prescribed medication. It gives an intoxicating effect. When you have knee surgeries, hip surgeries, back surgeries, have a lot of times parents might get this for this. Well, the kids start abusing it. 2 on Xanax, which is an antidepressant. You can have drowsiness and loss of consciousness with this. A few other ones, which I would call, I coined this phrase, told Vicki about it, like behavioral overdoses. I'm not making light of the overdose, but what it is I've gotten in a fight with my boyfriend, I've gotten in a fight with my girlfriend. So I'm just angry today. So I'm going to take some pills. I'm going to get in our cabinet and grab some. We had 1 from Tylenol, which it seems like we've had more, but 1 from Tylenol, 1 from Ambien, and about 6 other ones that were miscellaneous: Benadryl, lorazepam, Conoplam, and marijuana overdose. And the marijuana was, I think they smoked and got a little anxiety, but I went ahead and put that in there, okay? These are medication that can be in your cabinets. They can be in your friend's cabinet, they can be in your parents' cabinets. But these people are taking this. Tylenol, I will tell you this, it will kill you if you take enough. Everybody probably has a bottle of Tylenol in their house. And what it does is it affects the liver. It's processed through the liver. And if one of your loved ones is mad one day and they take about 20 or 30 or 40 of those, it's about 2 or 3 week process of death. And it's horrible. You have liver failure, and from then, you get the time to get on the liver transplant list, you might be able to get one. But usually you're not priority at that time, okay? So those are very dangerous. Ambien is a sleep medication. You read some of the news reports that people go out and drive on this. They don't, when they take it, they wake up, they'll eat breakfast, they get dressed, they take a shower, and head off to work. And then about noon they wake up. And they're new. They're going, how did I get here? There's been people getting DUIs because they're swerving. And then they wake up in jail, like, how did I get here? Well, it's hard for the police to understand. Come on. We're talking, you know? But the FDA just put out in January this year, they put out a warning that all manufacturers are supposed to go to the lowest dose possible in Ambien. So for the females, it processes slower without the body, so when the female wakes up, they might still have some remnants of that in there. We'll go on. With these ages, with all these 16, I'll tell you, the 16 overdoses I had in 2012, 2 were under the age of 17, 5 were between 20 and 26. I put this is a good number because at the ages of 20 and 26, those adults are still running around the house somewhere. They're going to college, they're coming back, you know, they're getting their feet wet with the job. So if you have younger siblings, for parents, you know, they can also expose that to a smaller group. And out of all that, 9 were from 30 to 56 years old. 30 to 56. These are adults that you would hope, you know, should know better. Sometimes once you get addicted, it's hard to come. Okay? But I will tell you this, from doing this all these years, you don't know if that person next to you is addicted. They are that good at covering it sometimes. And if you really know them, you might, maybe they're just having a bad day, like they explained. Okay? So just be aware of some of the signs that you can look at. I talked about some of the household drugs, ibuprofen. Can't really die from ibuprofen. It can cause some stomach bleeding and stuff like that. Talk about Benadryl. It can, if you take enough of it, you go to sleep. Sometimes you won't wake up. Tylenol, we talked about that. Cough medicines, they have some cough suppressants in it. They can also make you tired if you drink enough of it. I'm not saying take all your medicine and throw it away. Just be aware of what's going on with your, at this point we're in high school, so your teenagers, you know, because they have ups and downs. Other than that, that's all I have. So.
April is the driving force between Monroe County and coming over from the St. Louis area from Stop Heroin. I've never met a more passionate, compassionate, recovering addict than April. And she's going to tell her story. But she also is the person that you want to get a hold of if you have somebody in your family that you know needs help. She's got the contacts, and don't be afraid to stick around afterwards and ask for the confidential help. April?
Good evening, everyone. I'm a little nervous. I don't usually speak. I usually work behind the scenes on this. I want to thank you all for coming and taking the time to listen to us, because this is very, very important. My name is April, as Vicki said. I'm a recovering addict. I'm about 8 years clean this year. Been to prison 3 times. I'm living proof that your addict or any addict can get clean. They can have a normal life and function in society. I got involved in the Stop Heroin Movement in June of 2011. My niece Heather Thomason and her then friend, 16-year-old Tori York, started our movement in St. Louis, Missouri. They had suffered the loss of a friend. They had seen, you know, I guess, a protest on TV, and they called me and asked me if I would get involved with them to help them find the dope locations, because these 2 young kids, they had no idea where to go to look for the drugs. I did. So I got involved in the Stop Heroin Movement. I knew that there was a growing problem with prescription drug pain medication and heroin abuse. Living in St. Louis City today, I grew up in Collinsville, Illinois, so I'm a native from Illinois. And that's what has brought me over here to help you guys. Heroin, most of you may not even be aware of what heroin is, and wondering how prescription medication plays into the heroin abuse, but it does, very much so. They're both opiate-based pain medications and street-legal drugs. Most heroin addicts begin by using prescription painkillers. You know, kids, since we're in the high school, they might find something in their grandmother's medicine cabinet, mother's medicine cabinet, and start taking it. A lot of the times, older addicts begin by, you know, having a hurt back, anything that might cause you to need a painkiller. Go to the doctor, he gives you a prescription, he treats you for your condition, and then eventually the doctor feels that you don't need these painkillers anymore, and he will take you off of those, which is what the doctors need to do. That's not always good for an addict though, because any opiate-based painkiller you can be addicted to just the same as heroin. So you will then start, once your doctor stops your prescription, I've seen a lot of prescribed medication addicts that then start going to the streets to look for the pills, and they are all over being sold constantly. There's people that are a doctor shop, is what it is called. They'll go to sometimes 6 doctors. Sometimes they'll go to up to many as 6 doctors that I've found to get the prescriptions. It's really hard. There are red flagging systems that will flag the computers for someone that repetitively goes to the doctor and might go to Walgreens for one prescription, Walmart for the next. You know, if you don't have a system that is linking all that together, you're not going to know they're running around all over these different pharmacies. So once you know, they start buying them on the streets. If they don't have them, and this is the problem, they start going through withdrawals, heroin as well. You will withdraw. So any opiate-based painkiller, you will have a withdrawal. It's not a good idea to take them if you cannot, if you can stand from taking them, don't take them. When you do go through your withdrawals, you're going to get very, very sick. And with heroin withdrawals, or I can explain to you guys maybe the easiest way. Flu, the worst flu you've ever had in your life, times it by 100. You cannot get out of bed, you cannot function, you cannot move. There are detox centers to help ease this for a person wanting to stop, but it isn't easy. It's a vicious cycle of addiction once it has began. Most start buying the medication on the streets illegally after the doctors have stopped their prescriptions. For example, just one of them that I'm going to mention, there's many opiate-based painkillers, so you need to look them up and educate yourselves by reading online, reading books. But oxycodone and oxycontin, which I'm sure a lot of you are aware of what those two possibly are here. When you get them from the pharmacy, of course, you pay your $4, $5 copay. When you buy them on the street, they're worth $10 a milligram. The highest level of an oxy is 80 milligrams for one pill. So on the street, it's being sold for $80 a pill, okay? That's a high cost for a high. Or for your pain medication that you feel in your head, and your body's telling you that it needs because you get sick if you don't have it. The addiction is very costly, and it's easy to move on to heroin, and that's what makes it so easy. Because heroin is being sold for as cheap as $5 a pill, okay? The problem with these pills, though, they're not being made in a pharmaceutical setting. They are not monitored by anyone. The drug this street drug is synthesized from morphine, and I'm sure everyone knows what morphine is. A substance extracted from the opiate poppy plant. It usually appears, like they said in the video, as a white or brown tinted powder, block sticky substance known as black tar heroin. But you don't see much black tar heroin on the streets today. If you do get it, you're very lucky. That's the highest purest form of the heroin. You don't get to find it very often on street level. It's mainly being placed into the capsules and referred to as a button, as Steve Wigington said in the video. It's being shipped into our country, and this is per Steve Wigington himself, he has told me this, by the tractor trailer loads, you guys. That is a lot of heroin. And the prosecutors are working, all the officials are working to try to stop this from coming into your communities, but it is very hard to stop. It's very hard to stop it. The heroin is very deadly, and like they said, it will kill you instantly in its purest form. From reports out of the Southern Illinois District last month, which is your area, the heroin is in its purest form now, as it ever has been. The death rate is skyrocketing across the whole Metro East area. It's not just St. Louis City. It's not just Madison County. It's everywhere, you guys. In 2011, St. Louis City reached 117 deaths due to heroin. Our city had seen a changing point at that point. Heroin overdoses had outnumbered our murder rate in St. Louis City. I don't believe Monroe County has been hit by this until 2012, really, you guys. I'm from Illinois, as I said. My mother lives in Redbud, and that is what has brought me here. I started watching grid maps that are put out by the Drug Task Force Unit last year in St. Louis. I was watching them. And the other officials in the area, they all put those out to try to make sure that my home was safe, that my mother was going to be safe, that my family was going to be safe, you guys. And I was wrong, because it's here, as Vicki told you, and it's very deadly, and you guys have to do something to stop it. And the only way we can stop it is all being together, you guys, like we are tonight, and doing something about it. It's very upsetting when you think of your loved ones dying. Sorry, guys. That is, why we're tonight, because heroin is in Waterloo, you guys. It's in your high school. It's in your junior high school. And the only way we're going to stop it is for all of us parents and all of us adults to get up. Because it's not the junkie stigma of North City like you would think today. It's not the addict that looks like he's been homeless for 20 years in an alley. It's the cheerleader in your high school now. It's your neighbor next door. And it is very real. They could be anybody. You could be in the grocery store shopping, not knowing who they are. You could be driving down the street, as the EMS worker said, people would not up, and I remember what they're doing, and they will run into you. It's happened in St. Louis several times. You have to be totally alert and watch everything around you. So with that, I'm just asking all of you to please educate yourselves, educate your children, educate your community. Vicki Koerber, your coroner, and everyone you see in this panel here, they do have a plan, and you need to please help them with this plan as the community, okay? Form neighborhood watch groups. Watch your neighbors. Watch everybody around you, as I said earlier. Get out into your community. Get involved in, more things with the teenagers. Keep the kids busy and keep watching the kids at all times. Do everything you can, in your county. I do believe that Monroe County is savable at this point. I don't want any of this to scare you guys, because I know Monroe County is savable, okay? That's why I'm here. I've got a letter from Dan Duncan, which is the Not Even Once bracelet guy, and you'll see his pamphlets out in the hallway. He's part of the National Council on Drug Abuse, and he's located in St. Louis, Missouri with us. And I'm going to read that to you. It is effective. Working in your community, holding town hall meetings, and working with these people here will work. It will get it out of Monroe County, I promise. Just have to help, okay? So, with a lot of determination and lots of hard work from the residents, we can end heroin out here. St. Louis City, we began working in 2011. Not just our organization, many organizations, many residents, many parents, many people. And we were able to drop our death rate in the city of St. Louis. 2011 was 117 people dead from heroin. In 2012, a year of working nonstop, very hard, we dropped down to 82. Now that is still a high amount in numbers, but it is looking better. And I'm going to read you Dan Duncan's letter that he and Howard Weissman had put out. And this is covered in St. Louis City and St. Louis County. It says, earlier today, Dan sent this attachment, states statistics on deaths in our region from heroin overdoses. You'll see that after nearly 500 deaths, and this is the whole Metro East area, I'm assuming, in 2011, and 2012 numbers are showing a dramatic decline. Fewer kids are dying, about 25%. As we know, Monaco staff devoted a good portion of 2012 to sounding alarm and speaking before thousands of people about this issue. No one in our region did more to raise awareness of the heroin opiate problem than Monaco, and that is very true. With that, you guys need to get on board with your officials here. If you think somebody's dealing drugs, call the police. If you know a dealer, turn them in, please, because they're going to kill your children, okay? Your child can be taken, my mother never imagined me growing up and being a drug addict. She would be sitting here thinking, oh no, my daughter would never have done that. But I'm telling you, I've been to prison 3 times and I've been a drug addict. So it can happen to anybody. And like Steve Wigginton said, don't think that, you know, my child's not there. It's not my high school. It's not next door to me. Because if you're thinking it's not here and it's not next door and it's not in your child's school, you're totally in denial because it is here, you guys. And with that, I'm finished. Thank you.
April does have the connections into support groups. April, could you give some phone numbers out this evening that anybody that wants to jot it down could at this time?
And what the names are?
Okay, I would have to get my book with me afterwards. I'll go around with my book. If anybody wants the number, I will give it, or I'll leave my number. If you want my number, you give me directly at 314-267-5034 if you need to.
At this time, I would like to call Chief Trantham up. Chief is going to talk about what we've seen in Waterloo. Also, the program that Waterloo and now Columbia initiated as far as getting old prescription drugs out of your medicine cabinets or anything else that you would just want to get rid of.
First, I want to thank you all for being here tonight. And I do appreciate everyone takes their time out. I want to thank Vicki for inviting me. She asked for some numbers. She asked for some numbers. And the numbers, you know, don't always say what we see. We see a lot of things out there that you never see in the newspaper. And thus I get a lot of response from Waterloo people that let us go on here. And we see it in the police department. You know, there's things going on out there, you just don't have enough proof to go to the state's attorney, or you just don't have enough to take to court. And that's why when one speaker said, you know, if you see something suspicious, call the police. Because even if we can't make an arrest at that time, it sure gives us an indicator of who's doing what and what to watch out for. You know, just a couple weeks ago, one of our officers responded to a call at a major store here. And before long, you know, he's calling for help. And he had a father-son team. And just as you and your son or you and your father would go out fishing, they got up every morning and decided which major store they were going to steal from to support their heroin habit. And it's a father and son team. And we're in the middle of the Waterloo, you know, parking lot of this business, wrestling with them. Because what they do, they went in and stole things because we've had a real upswing of several of our businesses, heroin addicts, from wherever. We've had them from Memphis, we have them out of St. Louis, we have our own. And, so as they were saying earlier, it is here. A lot of times you don't see it in the newspaper. A lot of times we're dealing with them through the DEA or another drug unit to gather information and go up the chain, so we don't advertise that. So you may say, well, I never see the newspaper or it doesn't exist. It does. I just have some stats here. I did a rundown of the last year for Waterloo alone. Possession of cannabis, marijuana, we've had 45 arrests. Unlawful possession of controlled substance, heroin, we've had 3 arrests. Unlawful possession of controlled substance, cocaine, 1 arrest. An unlawful possession of prescription drugs, 3 arrests. Now, is that all that's out there? No. Because you get on a scene of a party, you get on a scene of a car parked on the side of the road, they know when the police are coming. They know when the police pull up, and they start getting rid of stuff. And, you know, legally, you can't tie it to someone, you can't charge them. So there's a lot more of it out there. This is just the charges that we've been able to use and to get to the state's attorney. We felt comfortable we could get a conviction on. As Vicki was saying, you know, our drug box in our lobby, I'm amazed at how much prescription drugs, and that's what I'm seeing among our youth, really more than anything right now. We are seeing a lot of black tar heroin, but I've seen that for years here, and I don't know if it's our closeness to St. Louis or the Metro East, but I see a lot of black tar here. When I say a lot, we deal with it. I think more than anything, we see black tar. But getting back to the box, in our lobby, we co-sponsored, we joined in with a cooperation with Illinois American Water, Monroe County Sheriff's Department, our city, and our city council mayor came behind this and got behind it, and we put that in the lobby, and it has a 24/7 access. You walk in the lobby, it looks like a mailbox in there, open it up, dump the drugs in there, and walk out. Prescription drugs, we get a little bit of everything in here. But we're getting ready for, in April, for another, DEA will be picking up another load. One of my officers, he bags it, puts it in a category, and gets it ready, weighs it, and the DEA picks it up in April and October. The last pickup, just for us, was right at 300 pounds. And we've got, in our evidence room now, for some reason, we've had a real influx. It's a good influx, but we're probably easily going to double that this time with the amount of prescription drugs people are bringing in. And we encourage that because a lot of people come in and say, this was in my cabinet, in mom and dad's cabinet for years. I didn't know what to do with it. They didn't want to dump it down the toilet. They didn't want to, do something silly with it. And yet they're afraid to do anything with it that they don't want anybody to get a hold of it. So we make that offer. Columbia also offers that. It's a good program, and it's in cooperation with several groups. And that's another way we try to combat it. And do we come up with some illegal drugs that are, they're not prescription, they're maybe every once in a while a little bit, but not a whole lot, not what I thought we would find. As far as someone coming in and maybe finding a bag of grass or marijuana or something in a kid's drawer at home and bringing it in. And quite frankly, if somebody brought some in, there's cameras out in the lobby just for safety. We're not going to track somebody down and find out why they dumped that in there. That box is anonymous, just to get it out of someone's hands, if that's possible. But I really have nothing else other than it is here. We all know it's here. We see it on our schools. We see it on our traffic stops. Again, we run into people, they're shopping in our area. They're coming out of Tennessee. They're coming out of Missouri. We had some coming out of Florida, and they have our businesses listed on a piece of paper in their wallet. They knew which pharmacies they were going to, and they're working their way north and then going back south. And it's a business to them. Just as you or I get up and go to work, that's what they're doing. And I have to go back to the man and his son. They sit in our booking room when we interviewed them, and to them to go out and steal so they can support their joint drug habit was just normal for them. They really saw nothing wrong with it because the heroin had taken over their lives. And it's a father-son. We've seen families, whole families affected here in Waterloo, and we continue to see it. It's not getting less. It's getting more. So it does take a joint effort by the family to recognize them and get them some help. You may be the bad person for a while in the family for doing it, but in the long run, you're gonna benefit them. You're at least gonna try, and then we can go from there and see what help we can get. But I want to thank you again for all being here, and that's really all I have.
Thank you very much, Chief. Doc Pickett? Again, this is the first time we've had a physician that's come to speak about what his office is seeing. So I think you're going to find this very interesting, the trial and tribulations of a physician in a local community trying to solve a problem and get through without medical in this house also.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Vicki, thanks for having me and the panel, the board for having you guys out here. My name is Jay Pickett. I've been in Waterloo for 22 and a half years, almost 23 years, believe it or not. Still not from home, but I was in practice in Kissimmee, Florida for a couple of years before moving up here. But, I thank you for allowing me to talk because you don't get a doctor's perspective on a lot of this sometimes. And as I look around here, unless there's some of you out there, I'm the only drug dealer here. And I don't know how that doesn't make me feel very well. One, because as a physician, we're trained to treat conditions. We're trained to treat people and their conditions. And in my office, I'm a family physician. I see the gambit. I see everything. Most of the people that come in have a variety of conditions. And the doctor-patient relationship is sacred. And it's built on trust. And obviously the patient, I believe, I hope, is coming in because he trusts me and on my knowledge, my experience, and what I have to recommend. On the other hand, I trust the patient because he or she is coming to me. They've got a problem. I trust that they're telling me the truth. They're being honest. And then we're going to work together to make sure that their condition, their whatever is treated appropriately and is helped. Because our whole life is in helping people. Then it comes to in the office, and you start seeing some folks that aren't so honest. The typical person that you start seeing, saying, what's going on? The back pain patient, because it's so hard to detect, is that pain real or is it contrived? The headache patient, where they're having these headaches, and they're so bad, I've got to have something for these headaches. Can you prescribe me something? And of course, the nature, and my nature is, hey, I'm trained to help you. I've got some tools here that I think can be helpful. I'm going to prescribe them. There's a number of patients that raise the red flag. Oh my God, we got to be wary of. Patients that will have medical conditions, back pain, crushed pelvis. I've got a guy. They were in an auto accident. They crushed their leg, their knees, their ankles. All this stuff is truly has pain. I believe it. But they never. You make recommendations. Hey, let's get some physical therapy. Let's go to pain management. Let's do some other alternative type of things that can be helpful for your condition. And they figure out a way. I don't have insurance right now. I can't go to physical therapy. I can't do that. Can you just give me some pain medicine so I can get by? Okay, we're believing in that for a while until it finally comes to a point of realization that they're not being truthful. And that's the hardest thing to accept, and it's the hardest thing to deal with as a physician when you're putting all your effort, all your knowledge, all your intuition, everything on the line, and then someone's not being honest with you. The other flags oftentimes are the ones that it's pretty funny. They come in and they automatically say, hey, I've got this, I need a refill on this, I need some Dilaudid or morphine, because I can't take Vicodin, I can't take Percocet, I can't take Tramadol, I can't take all this other stuff, I'm allergic to it. Okay. You've ever heard that before? So, in the midst of all this, we've tried to just be as helpful, be as concerned in all this, but you always got this doubt. Are these people tooling? Are they being honest? And in our office now that we've instituted a policy, if you're taking any narcotic medication, any anxiolytic medication like Xanax, Valium, Ativan, any of the stuff, we'll do random drug tests. You have to sign a contract that says you will. And anytime that we want to, we can do that. And you wouldn't believe the results that we get. I was astounded. We started this a couple of years ago. The labs have accommodated this and able to do this. But I will have prescribed a guy with back pain and just X-ray looks horrible. I know he's got back pain. He's getting 6 Vicodin a day. I'm prescribing 180 Vicodin a month, every month, on the dot, every 30 days. I mean, he's there waiting for his prescription. Get his urine drug screen, not a trace of hydrocodone or there's some cocaine. There's some Percocet or oxycodone, which I haven't prescribed, and no one else has prescribed. Where the hell is he getting this stuff? Well, he's selling it and all that. And and this is the embarrassing part, is that then I'm angry because now I'm a drug dealer. And I've allowed him to manipulate me. I've allowed him to utilize the medicine that I prescribe to make money in these economic hard times, or sell it to somebody else. And as I'm listening to the talk in the forum here and seeing you, it's actually somewhat embarrassing because one of the things is, how do I help this person? And that's really where we're falling short, is, we're catching them. Police is seeing them, the ambulance people are seeing them. I'm recognizing them in my office, and I'm so damn angry because I've been tooled out of narcotics that they're doing something I can't see straight. And we don't have the resources, at least in Monroe County, to help us with this. Who do I turn to? There's confidentiality, the HIPAA type stuff. And am I to warn or tell the police about somebody like this? I don't know. What am I legally liable to do? Am I infringing on their rights to say, God, they've had an illegal drug test? I don't think I can't tell the police. So what do I do? No. I had one guy. His mom was there, and she truly has, bad back, arthritis everywhere. I'm prescribing her, just to get her by. She's since died of heart issues and stuff. And she came in because she had run out of her medicines, and her son was with her. She'd run out like 2 or 3 weeks earlier, and he'd stolen her medicine, either taken it or sold it, and he was there. I lost it. Told him he was the biggest asshole I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Right in front of his mom. But again, it didn't help him much. Because since I think the police have picked him up a couple times. It's difficult. It's so difficult as a physician. And being here for the last 22 years, I've seen it evolve. Rarely was I seeing these people. I'm seeing more and more, and I think a lot of it can be related and related to the economic times that we have. People are just trying to get by, but not an excuse. So we always have to worry about whether, when we're prescribing, are they trustworthy? Is their family trustworthy? Because I don't know what their son, daughter, grandson, anybody is getting into. It is getting into the schools. I know that. Rarely have I had any young people, students in my office that, in the first 15 years of my practice, either admit or that I knew had drug problems or all that. It was great. The last 2 to 3 years, I've got at least 5 young people that come in. Hey, been to rehab. Was on heroin. I took a bunch of Vicodin. But hey, I'm better now. Or we're going through that. And it's like, that's great. Great that you're doing that. I'm saddened not hearing it. It's here. It's what I hope to today. I'm not going to drone on, nor do you want me to. But I've got some great stories that I can't even tell. For the sake of confidentiality. One of the things, though, I do see that we need to do is, one, since, even though the state of Illinois is going bankrupt, and who knows what the heck we're going to do about that, they do have a website, and it's a narcotic website that we refer to on a daily basis. And all the pharmacies participate in this in Illinois. And for all the people that are using drugs out there and getting prescriptions filled, they track the amount that you fill, the provider or the physician that prescribed it, the pharmacy in which it was filled, and the day. So I can go on there, and many of these people that I got the drug screens on, I look at it and it's like, wow, I prescribed you 120 Vicodin last month. Wow. You also got it from Dr. X up in Belleville 2 weeks ago, and you got it from Dr. Y in Granite City a week ago, and you got another, and then even another, 120 of Xanax from Dr. Y. And, they're pretty slick. They'll fill them at different pharmacies. Now, they think they're doing, being slick. And they used to until we had this website. You filled it at a different pharmacy, they couldn't track it. And none of the pharmacies communicated with this. One of the things I'm going to implore and see what we can do as far as working together is the pharmacies, the pharmacists, the law enforcement, the ambulance service, all of these need to somehow, without breaking patient confidentiality, work together in doing this, because once they leave my office with that prescription, I don't know what the hell is going on after that, unless I look at the website. Now, if they're smart enough, they'll go over to Missouri. Missouri is sophisticated enough to have a tracking website like this. They're only one of 3 states that don't have it, so it would sure be helpful. So, I hate to say it, but I'm on guard every time someone comes into the office and every time I'm prescribing something. 1, it's for their health. 2, it's for my license. So we've got to be careful and aware. And I'm happy and I'm so glad I was able to share some of my stories, frustrations. But enjoyed Waterloo and Monroe County. I've raised my kids here. They've gone to Waterloo High School. And we want to continue to have this a safe community for everyone to grow up in. So closing our eyes doesn't help. But setting up a system that we can help combat this will. So thanks for having me.
I will say that when he was talking about medication and family members coming in with other family members, maybe they're cancer patients, one of the questions on the form that our office uses for any hospice patients that has passed on, we always ask the hospice nurse at the scene, are all medications accounted for? Because believe it or not, when we get to a scene and we know the family's been taking care, and usually very good care, medications sometimes don't always add up. So it is out there. And I will also tell you, Dr. Pickett, I came out of Sheriff Kelly's office yesterday, and we are going to be starting dialogue with the agencies that you spoke of, and we're going to start with the meeting coming up shortly. So we are going to try to work on that problem of how we can interact and communicate, because until we do communicate from one agency to the other, these people are having what I call pill pimping paydays. So, and that definitely is adding to the problem on the streets. Are you ready here? Okay. Ms. Courtney?